Hello to anyone who's joining us. Hi, I am Emily Kalcher. I am an astrologer. I'm an intuitive tarot card reader and moon lover. And I have a lovely guest with me today. So let me introduce her properly. Okay, so Caitriona is a Karmic Astrologer based in Ireland. She teaches astrology and reads birth chart. Although she practiced astrology privately for decades, it took her a long time to do so publicly. So Caitriona is acutely aware of how skeptical people can be if something that is outside their norm. Although she was reluctant to put herself out there, the response to her work has confirmed that it was the right decision. So Caitriona believes astrology is complicated, but if you follow her, it doesn't have to be. Welcome! So did I say your name correctly?
You did? Yeah. I always say Katrina as in Hurricane Katrina. It's a bad reference, but I have a lot of American followers and American astrologers, and sometimes people say Caitriona. And even though I love Caitriona, it's very exotic. It's the Gaelic for Katrina. So yeah, you did pronounce it correctly. And thanks so much, Emily, for having me and for that lovely introduction.
Oh, thank you for joining me. I always love going live with people. It's good fun and always interesting to see what happens.
Exactly. But, yeah, it's so nice to chat astrology any day of the week.
Yeah, that too. So for anyone joining us, can you let us know your big three, your sun, moon, and rising, and kind of how they play out in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a Sagittarius rising, and anybody that follows me knows I'm a Sagittarius rising because, like all Sagittarius risings, I never shut up about the fact that I'm a Sagittarius rising. And I think that goes with the territory of being a Sag rising, but I'm very self-aware. And I have a Cancer sun and I'm an Aries moon. And I guess growing up, I was always very fascinated by being a Cancer sun, but I knew that I didn't resonate with all of those qualities. And it was when I got older and I guess deeper down the astrology rabbit hole, when I learned, that I was a Sag rising and that I was an Aries moon and that my birth chart was predominantly fire. I was like, oh, wow. Oh, like it was like all these light bulb moments. So that's why, and like I definitely do resonate with all the qualities of being a Cancer 100%. Even from a very young age, I was like, yeah, that's so me. That's so me. But like definitely learning the other parts of my birth chart, like my chart ruler, Jupiter in Pisces, that's really given me a more nuanced picture of myself and my soul and my own journey. And it's helped me learn about my strengths and also my deficits, which is ultimately more helpful than knowing your strengths a lot of the time. Ironically, it's far more helpful to know what you need to compensate for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
How about you, Emily? I'm always intrigued to know people's big three before I continue the conversation.
If you couldn't tell, I'm Gemini.
I was going to say, like, when you said I love doing lives, I love chatting to people, I was like, strong Gemini, I just got to tell.
Yeah, Gemini sun and rising with a Capricorn moon.
Oh, amazing. Wow.
Right next to my moon is my Mars in Capricorn as well.
Amazing. So you have the exalted Mars as well, same as me. Cool.
And I've got Aquarius midheaven as well. So it's like, oh, wow,
perfect.
All the kind of feels between putting like
perfect
astrology
for
down
restreaming.
to earth.
And with the Aquarius midheaven,
and
with the Aquarius midheaven, I often feel like, it's that feeling of being born into the world, feeling like you're so distinct, you're special, you're set apart, almost like an alien dropped out of outer space. You're like, wow, like I don't belong here. Like you're just roaming around, like looking for fellow, aliens. But that's amazing. My Mars is actually retrograde, so it took me a while to get to grips with my Mars in Capricorn. But it's lovely to have that combination of air and earth in your chart. I actually seriously lack earth in my own chart, and I always say my Mars in Capricorn is a lonely planet. and lonely planets in your birth chart work extremely hard. And my Mars in Capricorn, he kind of runs the show because there's nobody else in the birth chart to give him a hand. There's no other Earth placement. So he's like, I'm the boss, I'm in charge, I'm running this. I'm like, okay, Mars in Capricorn, off you go. Like, I'm so delighted, you little exalted Mars, that you go running the show.
Yeah, my missing element is fire. So
oh wow, I'm going to
I've got
compensate for that today now.
Perfect, that's what I need.
I have way too much fire, so I do try. I do find I attract people into my life, both platonically, romantically, friendship wise, business wise, that have an absence of fire. And I always think, oh, maybe I can inspire them or motivate them or push them on, because when we have that much fire, we're meant to be like illuminating the way for other people. That's what I believe. Because otherwise, if we don't use our fire, we get very restless and unhappy. That's my theory on having a lot of fire.
Yeah, definitely. My husband kind of makes up for some of the fire that I don't have as well.
Oh, well, yeah, that's lovely.
He's a Leo rising, and he is a Sagittarius sun and has a Scorpio moon. So,
oh wow.
Although obviously his moon is water with being Scorpio, it kind of feels like a fiery moon anyway, apart from the moments where it goes quiet, and then there's something wrong because he's deeply contemplating what's going on there, and then that sort of thing. But yeah,
isn't it amazing that
interesting.
you and your husband both have like quite difficult moon placements, I would say, with the Capricorn moon and the Scorpio moon, and yet you found each other. But that's lovely.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk a little bit about karma, because well, firstly, what do you believe karma is, and how do you see that and work with it with clients or with yourself and that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I never gave karma that much thought until I met my astrology mentor. And, when he was delineating my birth chart, he told me that I had, asteroid Urania, which is symbolic of astrology, and asteroid Karma together. And in Uranian dial, which is a type of astrology I have studied, I had asteroid Karma and asteroid Urania together in Uranian dial. And he was like, oh, wow, they're together. So you are a karmic astrologer. And, as Sag rising, I'd be slow to identify as anything. I'm like so expansive and open, and I'm more than one thing, and you can't box me in. But when he said to me, you're a karmic astrologer, it was like a light bulb moment went off for me. And suddenly I was like, yes, I'm a karmic astrologer. I identify as a karmic astrologer. And this was around the time before I had established my Instagram page and my platform. And I was thinking about, I guess, how to market myself or how to identify myself. I wanted to leave it open, but I also was very proud to be a karmic astrologer. You see people, I'm a traditional astrologer, I'm a holistic astrologer, I'm a modern astrologer. I was like, I'm a karmic astrologer. This is it. Like, this encompasses everything that I am. And I genuinely didn't give that much thought to karma. But when I think about karma, I think about my own karma, because I know from my birth chart that I would say I've been here a good few times. And I think when the soul is old, you do accumulate a bit of karma. And I always felt that in the readings I do, it's almost like every client that comes to me, everybody that comes to me, everybody that finds me, that I give them a birth chart reading, I feel like I owe that person a karmic debt. Maybe I knew them in a past life, maybe I didn't, but like it's creating good karma for me, or it's paying off some karmic debt by reading for them. That's my belief of karma, that I'm paying it forward. I'm doing something good. I don't like essentially look at karma in a negative sense, that, that anyone has bad karma or that karma is a bad thing. I always see it as like a transactional thing, that I might owe you something, that maybe we had unfinished business in a previous lifetime. And in this lifetime, I have this opportunity again with karma to maybe rectify that or pay it forward. So I look at karma in a very positive light. And obviously, when I look at karma in a birth chart, predominantly, when I open a chart, I'm not straight away like looking for the karma, but I do focus a lot on the nodes of the moon, the karmic nodes. I focus a lot on, what a person has brought with them from a past life. I see it as their past life gifts and where they could potentially get stuck if they don't move out of their comfort zone. And I also would look at how many of the inner planets are retrograde. Because as you know, it's so common for outer planets to be retrograde. So like, yeah, Saturn, Neptune could be retrograde. I don't think, well, Saturn's a bit closer, but I don't think that that's as big a deal as having like your Mars or your Venus retrograde. I do think like that's karmically, it's a heavier placement if you're Mars, Venus, or Mercury. It's more, there's a bit more karma maybe to resolve in this lifetime if the inner planets, the ones closer to the Earth, are retrograde. And those people, like myself, I was born with Mars retrograde. We've got a few more things to figure out. We've got a bit of reflection to do. We need a little bit of help maybe. And we need to maybe go a bit slower, or maybe a less linear path, less direct route, to resolve that karma. And also, maybe in a previous lifetime, we, abused that placement, or we didn't utilize it correctly, or we didn't use our gifts correctly. So this lifetime, we're born with the retrograde inner planet, and it's almost like a challenge. You're going to be very frustrated with that planet until you use it properly. And often you don't use it properly until you get to your 30s, or till you get to maybe your nodal return or your nodal reversal, and something goes wrong. And it's like the hands of destiny step in to redirect you. That is my general overview belief of karma, Emily.
I love that. There's so much there. And
So
I was
much.
thinking about so much, yeah. When I think of karma, I think of Saturn initially, because we're all born into this life with some kind of purpose, some kind of lesson to learn. And it's how we are disciplined, and what restraints and delays we might have, but also that whole spectrum of, okay, so what is there to learn here? Is there some kind of soul purpose within me? And I believe there is, that everybody has one, and that's why they chose to come into this lifetime on an unconscious level. And then we consciously work out throughout our lives what that lesson is and how we work with it. But I do believe, like you, in working with the nodes. So for anyone who doesn't know about the nodes, they're not actual planets. They're just fixed points within our chart. And they do relate in some respects to our moon, although they are likely a different sign to our moon. And there are lots of different ways of looking at these. So actually, when we think of the nodes, some people talk about the head and tail of a dragon. And actually, the head being a north node, it's that path where if we need some kind of help, that's a good idea to look at that path. And as astrologers, we often do. But the south node is equally important because they balance each other out. The south node, as Caitriona had sort of like talked about anyway, is a lot of our comfort zone. It's some area we know, whereas the north node is usually quite alien to us. But actually, working with one without the other doesn't feel like we're actually using, I will use your term actually, our gifts, because they are gifts and opportunities that, if we so choose to use them, they can be really quite powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As you say, it's a seesaw, it's a balancing act. It's about marrying our past life with, our current life, and recalibrating and moving towards the thing that feels a little bit scary, but is ultimately for our higher and greatest good. And I always say, if a person doesn't move towards their north node in this lifetime, because some people don't, let's face it, some people stay stuck in their south node, that person will never know fulfillment. They get to, the age of 40 and 50, and they have that, they get to their Chiron return, and they are like, I don't feel fulfilled. I have everything society tells me I should have, and yet I feel empty. And 99% of the time, the reason that person feels empty and is in the middle of like a spiritual crisis or an awakening is because they haven't taken that scary step to move towards that thing that scares them. They're still stuck in that safe, secure place, which is the south node. And they haven't explored their north node, which they need to explore in order to feel fulfillment in this lifetime.
Yeah, definitely. I did have a quote somewhere. Where was it? Mm. Maybe not. Okay, no worries. Because I did a part of my London School of Astrology training that I'm doing. I'm going into the final year of it at the end of the month, which is cool. So it's my second astrology training that I've been doing. So I started off with Deborah Silverman's School of Astrology, Applied Astrology, did all 3 levels of that, and now I thought, well, actually, I wanted something different and to be able to focus more on like forecasting and being able to really delve into a chart in a different way. So yeah, part of that, there's an astrologer called Mark Jones who looks a lot about nodes and things. And I was thinking if I could find a quote from him in my notes, that'd be really cool. It's just like, oh, this is what he says as well. What do you think? But
Yeah.
no, I'm too slow at reading when
It's
I'm trying
hard.
to be
It's
talking as
hard.
well.
It's a Gemini thing though as well. It's the kind of like, having a million things like racing in your head, but not being able to locate the one thing you need to locate when you need it.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
amazing at the multitasking.
yeah, I mean, he did talk about Rahu and Ketu and say the head tail of the dragon in there.
Yeah.
But also quoted some Dane Rudger and his talk as well. I was thinking, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. I think it's lovely to blend the Vedic with the modern astrology as well and with Western astrology. I always think, when people are so resolutely clinging to their branch of astrology and defending it as superior to another, I feel like they've lost track, they've gone off the path. Like that's not what astrology is about. It's this huge tree, and this part of astrology you're just working on one branch. But like as astrologers, we should all be like united in this kind of mutual respect for all the different disciplines. I think like all of the different forms of astrology and branches in the tree, they all ultimately reach, the same place. We get the same answers. It's just a different route. I don't think one form of astrology is better than the other. So I love looking at Vedic astrology too. I actually resonate a lot with my Vedic astrological birth chart and some of the interpretations of that equally as much as I would resonate with Western tropical astrology, which is amazing.
I haven't really gone down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'm a Scorpio rising in Vedic, and I'm a Gemini in Vedic astrology, believe it or not. I'm a Gemini sun. So it's like, yeah, I just think it's so interesting. But what's really lovely is that my sun is in the 8th house in Vedic, and it's also in the 8th house in Western. So it's this like, can't escape that sun in the 8th house, dark night of the soul. It was coming for me. No matter what type of astrology I did, I couldn't escape the sun in the 8th house. So yeah, it was so interesting.
Yeah, so when we think about the 8th house, we do think about some of the karma again there. That's like another little echo in your chart, isn't it? So, well,
Yes,
actually,
100%. Yeah, 100%. A deep interest in karma. Yeah, definitely. And then I have Saturn in the 12th house in Western tropical astrology. So it's like, again, Saturn in the 12th house, I see that as, Saturn loves to be in the 12th house, but also it's the energy of, someone who wants to become like very disciplined and like almost an expert on all things that we can't understand. Like, for example, karma. The 12th house rules karma after all. So it's no coincidence that, I adopted the title Karmic Astrologer with Saturn being there in that place he loves to be in, the 12th house.
Yeah. So, have there been many sort of challenges within your like business or personal life that astrology's kind of helped in some way?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's definitely given me a lot of compassion for myself. Like I'm a full-time primary school teacher, and my astrology business is a part-time business. I always think it's lovely to have another career outside of astrology, because astrology, like, let's face it, it's inconsistent income, like, you know what I mean? It's not like somebody no, it's not like a job that we're not an essential worker. During COVID, we learned who the essential workers were. And no disrespect to astrology. Perhaps some people see astrologers as essential workers, but it wasn't a case or life of death, if you couldn't get your astrological reading. But yeah, like growing up, I guess I had a lot of inner struggles, personal struggles. And I found that learning my own birth chart initially, I'm not going to lie, it gave me such a sense of inner turmoil and doom, and like almost like, self-fulfilling prophecy. The deeper I went into my chart, the more awful stuff I went. And I was like, oh no, no. And it was very hard for me to see all of the beautiful things in my chart, which I can see now because I can be a bit more objective. And also because I've read so many charts for clients. Everyone thinks their own chart, I always say, everyone thinks their own chart is the worst chart they've ever seen. I talk to astrologers all the time. I'm friends with so many astrologers, and they're like, oh yeah, but like, you think that's bad, but you should see my moon, how badly my moon is aspected. And I'm like, yeah, but we all think our own charts are horrific. Or even, someone's like, yeah, but have you seen my karmic cross? You've got a T-square, but you should see my karmic cross. It's been the worst thing ever. It's all very subjective, the experience of astrology. Yeah, initially I remember like finding out about certain aspects in my chart and finding generic, let's say, cookbook interpretations of those aspects, we'll call them. Because the way they are, those cookbooks out there that will tell you if you have this aspect, like, for example, if you have Jupiter square Chiron, which I would have, you're going to read the worst possible interpretation of that. But it doesn't allow for nuance. It doesn't allow for the interpretation of what house is Jupiter in, what house is Chiron in, what degree are they at, what zodiac signs do they fall in, and and also your lived experience, and what other aspects are Jupiter making in your chart, what other aspects is Chiron making in your chart. In the beginning, like all astrologers, I isolated my aspects and I interpreted them with a sense of foreboding doom, like, oh my God, this is awful. And it didn't ever really turn me off astrology, but it did give me a lot of compassion for why I had struggled with specific things. So it did help me in that regard. It helped me love and accept myself more. And it helped me as well not water myself down so much. And it helped me understand why I had struggles in specific areas of life that were a pattern, almost like a loop. You're like, oh yeah, like this part of my life is great in this part, but this is something I have always struggled with. And, is there something wrong with me? Do I have to fix myself? Why can I not get this thing right? Well, usually that's the thing in your birth chart that you need an astrologer to help you with. And now that I have like helped so many other people, I've inadvertently helped myself, Emily, because now like I'm giving other people advice, and it's made me almost like, God, like, Caitriona, like you really need to like appreciate how far you've come yourself, that you're in a space now where you can help other people reframe their negative placements, because you were once in a space where you looked at negative placements through a negative lens. And it's really interesting, Emily, like we have Mercury square Pluto this weekend. I have that aspect in my birth chart, Mercury square Pluto. And, it was an aspect I kind of overlooked. And like any aspects with Pluto are definitely aspects that I would call maybe shadow aspects, and ones you shouldn't overlook. And it's something that maybe ran my life for a lot of my life, my Mercury square Pluto, and still continues to kind of call a lot of the shots in my birth chart, because it's a very tight square. And the older I get, the more evolved and self-aware I've become about the fact that I've Mercury square Pluto, and how having Mercury square Pluto can make other people feel. Because the way we know about how it makes us feel to have this, but like I didn't have much awareness of how that might affect another person I was dealing with, like in a one-on-one situation or in a conversation. Having Mercury square Pluto is not like, that's not a hallmark of someone that likes to have a light and fluffy conversation. I'm going to go really deep and make people feel a bit uncomfortable, like, and maybe somebody wants a surface level, superficial conversation. Next thing they know, here's me, like they're telling me all their deepest traumas, or perhaps I'm trauma dumping on them, or I'm really forceful or intense. It was like, I gained more self-awareness, is what I would say, through studying my own astrology, and it did help me in that respect. And also, it helped me appreciate, my business has gone well, thankfully, like since I established it. But it also made me realize, God, I have this exalted Mars. I actually have a great head for business. Like, I'm very pragmatic. I'm very sensible. I don't overstretch myself. I know my limits. I know what I can and can't achieve. I don't do that many readings in the month. I limit my readings, and I limited my readings to conserve my own energy, Emily. But what it created was demand for my readings in a kind of
Mm.
I didn't have the energy, the physical energy to do as many readings as I would like to. There is demand for my readings, but because I have another career, I can't do that many readings each month. And it's been in a way, it's almost like a good marketing strategy, because people want what they can't have. And my Mars in Capricorn sees that. I'm like, oh, yes, of course, people want, something that isn't that readily available. So then I would tell people on my stories, I have a limited number of readings left, which is true. And then the readings would sell out because people have this scarcity complex. And like, that's not like, that's just a Mars and Capricorn approach to business. We see business as like, we don't see it as like, we're very like sensible about business. We're like, okay, this is my availability. I don't want to get burnt out. This is how much I'm charging, and I'm going to do a limited amount. And this has actually created more demand for my work, and actually people appreciate it more because I actually can't do that much of it. And
Mm.
it opened my eyes as well to the nature of business, because I still do, I work for the state in Ireland as a primary school teacher. So I have a state job. So I do work like 5 days a week. Um, and it kind of made me realize that if I'm going to have my business outside of that, I need to be sensible about it. I need to be structured. I need to have goals and all the rest of it. And also I started thinking more about passive income. How can I create passive income? And I set up a course, and I've sold a little mini course on the shadow sign, which has been lovely for me, because it helped me realize that, Mars and Capricorn is always thinking, how can I make money in the most efficient way? And it's like, there I see my lonely planet in my birth chart running the show. He's like, do this, do this, do that, do that. So I do think, like, I'm very grateful to my Mars and Capricorn. I'm very grateful to the fact that it's retrograde, and that, like, I was slow to start my business. I didn't start doing this publicly till my 30s. I could have been doing this in my 20s, but I did not have the confidence, probably because my Mars was retrograde. And now I realize that I
Mm.
actually didn't waste any time, Emily. That time I spent building up my confidence was time well spent for my Mars, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful, because actually you're respecting who you are, what your motivation is, and realizing that delays actually can make you more certain of what lies behind your motivation, and what legacy you can still build because of being in that area of your chart. It's just like, wow, it's using your energy wisely, shall we say.
Definitely, because I didn't mention, when I started my page, I got booked out quickly, and I got really overwhelmed and burnt out, and I was like, oh God. And it got to the point that I wasn't enjoying doing the readings, and I needed to take a little break from them for about a month or something. And I remember thinking, okay, I can't let that happen again now, because like, I have an Aries moon, and I'm not like, I don't enjoy resting. I like being busy, and my Mars likes to feel purposeful. And I know
Yeah.
what I need in order to feel happy. To be happy as an Aries moon, I need to be busy. I need to be active. And Mars and Capricorn needs it to be purposeful. And I need it to be sensible, and I need it to be planned. So like, I've tried to structure my life around my birth chart, so that like, I have the things I need in order to feel happy. So knowing my own energy has been really, really helpful in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Do you have actually any advice for people just starting out, either on the spiritual path or business wise? Because it seems you've got a wealth of experience and knowledge that you've gained from doing it this way.
Yeah, oh my God, I have so much advice. Like, well, first piece of advice I would give is like, if you have a guru that you follow, that you like think, oh my God, like they're the best ever. Like I love that guru. Like first thing I would say is like take that guru off of the pedestal and be the guru yourself. You know, like don't say like, oh my God, this is my favorite creator on Instagram. This is my favorite person on Twitter. This is my favorite astrologer. And then because what happens is you will listen to that astrology podcast every week. You will like emulate all of their work on Instagram, and you just become a cheap, watered down version of that astrologer you admire so much and think that is better than you. When in fact, like if you understand that astrology or any of these metaphysical things, um, it's a gift, it's a sacred gift. And if you are called to do it, you know, I often say, like, you don't choose astrology, astrology chooses you. So if you've been called to this higher calling, to this sacred work, honor it as sacred work and know that you like have been chosen as this vessel to communicate your own message unique to you about astrology, let's say, or whatever other discipline, perhaps it's tarot. And like, yes, it's good to learn from all these other people, but you need to be your own guru at the end of the day, and you need to kind of know that like nobody can share the message or the learning or the interpretations in the way you can. You know, you've got your own unique style. And I think that for me, that was really important in the beginning. I asked myself, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to start my astrology page? I don't know where to start. I don't know where to begin. And I just said, I'm just going to teach about the birth chart because I'm a teacher. I identify as a karmic astrologer. My life path is 33/6, which is like the master teacher. So there were so many things I knew about myself. My chart ruler is Jupiter in Pisces, where Jupiter loves to be. So I have so much to teach in spirituality. I already have this wisdom. I just need to start sharing it, and the right people will find me. And even though I have all those people I admire, I'm doing it my own unique way, and I don't want to be like anybody else. So that's like definitely the first piece of advice. Like, I know it sounds a bit ironic, but be yourself. And it's actually a really difficult thing to be yourself in this Instagram, YouTube, saturated like astrology TikTok world where there's so many people doing the same thing. Like, I mean, look at all the big astrologers right now on TikTok, okay, or Instagram, the really big, ones that go viral. What are they all doing? They're all doing up close the camera, and they're all doing kind of the shock factor astrology.
Oh.
What signs are going to find love this weekend, or what signs are in for a big, massive karmic, this kind of like, that's like, I don't see that like as something to emulate or model myself on. I'm like,
No.
that's not it. Like, you can't just say like 4 zodiac signs are going to have a massive release this weekend. Anybody who's watching this, who watches astrology, will know exactly the astrologer I'm talking about. But anyways, like, I'm like, having studied astrology for decades, I know that astrology is not that simple. And when I see people simplify it so that they can like get all these followers, I'm like, how ethical is that? Because I know for a fact that those 4 zodiac signs are not all going to have a massive release this weekend. It really depends on your birth chart placement and the degrees of the planets in your chart. We can't say that all Aries are having a massive karmic release right now. The reality is that only like Aries placements maybe from like 26 degrees of Aries, onwards, like the final degrees, they could be going through a massive like change or karmic release right now, but not all Aries. So I decided, I'm going to be ethical. I'm going to do things my own way. And yes, we can generalize astrology and we can do forecasts, but like, we need to do them from a place of like, I'm not trying to gain followers. I'm not trying to do this shock factor. I'm just doing it because I know it's something that will like help maybe someone who watches it. And the best thing anyone can do is get a birth chart reading, because what these really big, big, huge astrologers are doing is it's actually, people will follow them like religiously and outsource their own intuition. They'll outsource their own intuition and they'll wait for the horoscopes, for the rising signs, instead of actually being empowered to learn about their own energy, their own birth chart. And I'm really passionate about everyone should know their own birth chart. Everyone should know their inner planets. Everyone should know, excuse me, the phone is ringing behind me here. Everyone should know, like, perhaps their big 3. Imagine if we lived in a world where everybody knew their big 3 and, actually like moved through the world that way. Because I do think there's a lot of, with Saturn in Pisces and with Neptune in Pisces, there is an awful lot of pretenders, or like people like that are like, you know, have platformed themselves as spiritual gurus, but like they're not maybe as spiritual as people think them to be, you know. And I think Neptune and Pisces is showing us that like you know, there's a lot of people like, I'm struggling to find the words, but I think you know what I mean, Emily. You know, maybe people like claiming to be an authority on something. Like, nobody is an authority. The only person who's an authority in your life is yourself at the end of the day, you know, your own intuition. And I really feel like everyone needs to reconnect to their own intuition, because their own life path is so, so unique. And we kind of touched on that earlier in our conversation, that idea that, you know, everybody is here with a purpose. And we can't just say that, you know, all cancers are going through hell at the moment, because that's simply not true. There's lots of Cancerians having a great time at the moment. Have I lost you there, Emily, or is it just, I feel like I've lost. Oh yeah.
Is it you that's paused or me? I think it's you.
Is it, I can, yeah, is it? Oh yeah, I'm back. Have you seen me?
Oh.
I'm not sure what happened there.
I can hear you now. Oh.
Yes, and can you see me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. Strange.
I was going on
a tangent,
but it goes in and out, and your image is frozen. But
oh no. I wonder, am that any better? Am I back? It could be the Pluto squaring Mercury this weekend, perhaps. You're frozen now for me. Oh no, I've lost you. Oh, we're back. Are we back?
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad it did that. I can. Yours is screen, but I can hear you.
Can you hear and see me? Yes.
I can hear you. I can't see you.
Oh no, I don't know why that is.
Maybe because we were trying to stop people from pulling the wool over people's eyes. And
am I back now? Can you see me now? No.
No.
It says here everyone can see and hear you. I wonder if I go out and go in again, would that work, Emily? Or
Sure, yeah.
I'll try that and just see. Hang on.
It's interesting that if we're talking about Neptune, that actually maybe what Caitriona was saying was very, very much on the mark. I hope we didn't scare anybody, but of course, there's lots of things with astrology that can be taken in lots of different ways. I mean, Neptune at its best can be people really connecting to their spiritual world, being quite compassionate, and finding something like film or photography or gaming or even astrology or meditation, lots of different things that actually, when you zone out and tune in and listen to that inner teacher within, that actually...
You're backstage. Oh. Yes, I'm back.
You're back. Welcome back. I was trying to just talk a little bit about Neptune because I thought, well, I didn't want people to have nothing to listen to or watch, so I figured I'd fill in. So basically, the gist of what I was saying was that Neptune itself can be about things like illusions and like a fog over, pulling wool over people's eyes. But at its best, we can be quite transcendent. We can be in the spiritual realm. We can tune into something magical or something like film, photography, poetry, or even astrology or meditation, all these lovely things. But you can be really quite sort of, what's the word? really quite in tune and immersed with. It's like an immersive experience where you feel like you're out of this world, but you're tuned in, and listening to that inner teacher is so important. I think that's a lot of what you were saying, that inner teacher, rather than outsourcing your authority, you're looking at what's within and being your own authority on you, your life, and your world around you, and putting it out into the world in a purposeful way.
Yeah, I think Neptune and Pisces, particularly at the final degrees, before it moves into Aries, will show us all of the false idols that we've been worshipping, in society.
Yeah.
And this is not just in astrology, this is right across the spectrum. False idols and all of these gurus that we've platformed as an authority and everything, and how disconnected we've gotten from our own intuition because we're waiting to hear the next podcast episode from, like, I'm just going to throw a name out there. Let's say Andrew Huberman. Everyone idolized him as this authority on science and medicine and morality and everything. And then, like, it transpired that, he was someone who had treated women really, really terribly in this op-ed. There were claims, allegations, we'll say, made against him. But, like, this is an example of false idols being unmasked. And, like, it's very on brand for the current astrology. Not to idolize these people, to be your own guru. And I think that's a lesson that we're all learning right now with the current astrology.
Yeah. Take off your mask, allow yourself to breathe and immerse yourself in the spirituality and the things that you love that light you up, but also realize that there are two sides to every story. And sometimes there are illusions that are keeping us from being our own authority in some way, I guess.
100%, yeah.
I was actually thinking of actually, I might just do it. There's a little chant that basically looks at your inner guru. Om Namo Guru Dev Namaha. Om Namo Guru Dev Namaha. Om Namo Guru Dev Namaha. When I think about it, it's kind of like looking at your third eye and sort of channeling there. So I don't know if that helps anybody, but I thought it would kind of ease some of the heaviness.
Is it Sanskrit, Emily?
It is, yes.
And what does it loosely translate to?
Sort of, I thank the inner guru.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. And they're often Vedic cures, for certain birth chart placements. Those chants. I know that one of the cures I was given for my strong Saturn, I was told I have a strong Saturn, is to chant Om Namah Shiva 108 times.
Of course.
I had to buy my mandala bead because it's difficult to count to 108. I'm used to being an Irish, growing up Roman Catholic and Irish in Ireland. I'm used to like the rosary, with the 50 beads. 108 is a whole different ball game. But it takes longer to chant the rosary because the prayers are longer. So it's about the same amount of time, really. But yeah, interesting.
Makes you think about like traditions and breaking away from those, but actually, does it matter whether you chant something that feels healing to you or whether you chant prayers?
Like, I don't think it really matters. I mean, speaking, as a Sagittarius, a big thing for Sagittarius is that, like, we come here to discover our own moral code, that we're not, like, Sagittarius gone wrong is preachy and is attached to one belief system. Sagittarius gone right is open to everyone doing their own thing and doesn't really matter what other people do. Sagittarius gone wrong is the person who starts a cult movement. My way or the highway. Sagittarius gone right is like, each to their own. It doesn't matter, what you do, as long as you're doing it from a place, that you're not harming anyone else. Live and let live is, the ultimate energy you want to strive for when you're a Sagittarius, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Saturn and Sag. Saturn
Yeah, well,
opposite my yod in my first. It's like, oh
oh
no.
yeah. Yeah. But like Saturn and Sag is fantastic placement for, because, you know, you probably grew up with certain type of beliefs in the household, and your whole, it's not that you're unlearning them, it's that you're learning your own kind of type of moral code in this life that's
Oh yeah,
possibly different from your parents, but
very.
works for you.
Yeah.
And you probably found your parents' beliefs quite restrictive growing up with Saturn and Sagittarius too, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, my mum's an Aquarius, but I feel there's like two types of Aquarian in a way. I feel like there's
Okay.
the strict, more like Saturnian style, and then the
Mm-hmm.
more Uranian types, which are more
Mm-hmm.
freedom, thinking, and community. And bless my
Yeah.
mother, but I think she's more on the sort of strict Saturnian side. Although she does love community, but it's more what's appropriate in community,
Yeah,
which
and that's very
might be
symbolic of your
generational.
Capricorn moon too. You know, you say you have a Capricorn moon, a
Yeah.
Saturn type moon, you know, as well. And yeah, my older sister is an Aquarius, and I would say she's more of a Saturnian Aquarius than a Uranian type. But when she was
Mm.
younger, she was more of a Uranian type Aquarius. She
Hmm.
talked a lot about, you know, that she wanted to drive a motorcycle. And in my own head, I thought, you just want to drive a motorcycle because you just want to be a typical, you know, offbeat, unconventional Aquarius, you know, that kind of way. Like she never actually drove a motorcycle. But they say you are the three people you spend the most time with. And,
Mm.
you know, I'm pretty sure her husband is a Capricorn. And, you know, I think when two Saturn rule signs get together, you know, it can work out great, etc. But it's like you become a bit more like the downside of being a Saturnian type Aquarius is that you can become a bit more cynical with it if you go too far towards Saturn, too far away from Uranus. It's lovely to have the balance between both, you know, that you could explore both. Sure, your mom might, you never know, she might lean more towards the Uranus type of energy, Aquarius in the future, who knows?
I think it's quite interesting because I think sometimes when there's big events in her life, she'll say something completely off the cuff, and we find her absolutely hilarious. And she thinks, "Oh, why is that so funny?" Like, well, actually, that's really quite endearing, and it's unusual because none of us were thinking the same thing as you. But then other
Yes.
times, I think, well, actually, I'm used to being the one who no one thinks the same way as in my family, and
Mm-hmm.
it's quite refreshing. I mean, she wrote this beautiful little poem that she read to me in a card from my wedding day. I thought, oh, that's so lovely, and the fact it rhymes in such a way. But there was kind of a slightly kiddie feel, and then near the end of it was the maturity side of it. Like, oh, you've kind of gone from like the childhood side right through to the adult side, and you're loving me as I am rather than the appropriate as I should be growing up, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Yes.
Love my mum for some of the things that she comes out with, and other things I think, well, I completely disagree with everything you're saying, but you have a right to your opinion, I have a right to mine, and we'll meet in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's lovely.
Yeah, I say we can't choose our parents, but in a way, we kind of made an unconscious decision to come
Mm,
into where we are and heal some of it,
mm,
learn from
mm,
it, some of it, grow from other bits, take what
mm,
resonates, leave what doesn't, all of the.
mm. Well, I believe as a karmic astrologer that like our parents chose us, we chose them, and that, you know, we've shared probably several lifetimes with our parents, maybe in
Mm.
different forms. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It certainly is. But definitely, I think like we are our parents' teachers, and our parents are our teachers,
Yeah.
and we equally trigger and teach each other, you know, in equal measure.
I think it's quite interesting that my sisters and I are all Gemini, all three of us are Gemini, but we're all
Mm,
so very different.
mm,
So my older sister feels more Aquarian in some ways, and my younger sister feels more Virgoan somehow. Um,
yes.
and yeah, it's just really unusual that we've all got such different personalities. And people say, well, none of you are the same. although they would say that maybe my little sister and I look similar.
Yes.
So it's like you're the English roses kind of thing, and then Laura's like someone who's a foreigner because the other countries try to claim her wherever she goes. It's,
amazing.
there's like this running joke in our family, Madam, are you Indian? Because when she went to India, she had trouble with immigration because they were saying, well, actually, you're Indian. Why have you got a British passport? And she said, because I am British. And then
Wow.
when going to Sicily as a family many years back, people were trying to speak really fluent Italian to her and were saying, why are you not understanding some of the words I'm saying? Because, well, clearly you're Sicilian. She's like, I'm actually English. But no, there's no way you're English. But then she's got dreadlocks and she's got like lovely tattoos on her back and her arms and things, but they're all kind of like my mandala style. And you think, yeah, she's a spiritual type, done a yoga teacher training, and now she's very much in a garden. It's like, oh, all these beautiful things. But actually, no, she is English. She just doesn't look it.
And what are you all similar degrees of Gemini, or I'm assuming some of you are different degrees, Gemini Sun?
I'm not, I can't remember, I'm afraid. There's just,
Yeah. I love degree theory. I think it gives you such a nuanced picture of the type of person. Like, for example, my Cancer Sun is at 8 degrees, and degree theory is a relatively new form of astrology, but very powerful. And 8 degrees is a scorpionic degree, and I've always really resonated with Scorpio energy. So it really blew my mind. And even, you know, the deacons as well are just so interesting when you have siblings. Thankfully, I'm the only Cancer and Aries moon in my family. I think there's only space for one Aries moon in each family, I always say.
Oh, that's my dad. Yeah, that's my dad.
There's no room for other Aries moons. And yeah, so it's easier. I don't know how a house would work if you had 2 Aries moons. But yeah, I have Pisces, 2 Pisces siblings, and Scorpio. Yeah, I have a lot of siblings, like a lot of Irish people. And yeah, it's so interesting seeing the nuances between the personalities based on the sun signs.
Yeah. Can you tell me some things that you're kind of proud of in your life?
I'm really proud of like setting up my astrology business, and I'm really proud of like setting up my website. I'm really proud of the fact that I put my face to my Instagram page, which I think is hard to do. You know, I remember thinking I would originally maybe make a faceless Instagram page because I was like, oh, I don't know about putting my face out there. And it was actually my Gemini sister who convinced me to put my face out there. She's a Capricorn rising, and she was like, well, nobody's going to trust you or follow you if you don't put your face to your work. And I was kind of like, yeah, she's right. Like, you know, it was a journey in authenticity for me. And as well, a chance for me to get over my fear of being seen. And, you know, anybody who's born with their sun in the 8th house, there is an innate fear of being seen, that if somebody saw who you really were, they wouldn't like what they saw. You know, when your sun is in the 8th house, it's not like the prettiest house to have your sun in, like, you know, a pretty dark house. So I was like, okay, yeah. So sun in the 8th house. I remember when I started my Instagram page, my sun had progressed out of Cancer into Leo, which was very on brand. So suddenly I was more comfortable with being seen. So the progress chart is so interesting. You know, you can go from being that very introverted, shy person that likes to hide away, who's very reticent, to suddenly feeling like, yeah, I need an audience. I want to be seen. I'm really comfortable with being seen. I'm really comfortable with putting myself out there. And it was all, you know, sun and Leo. And I'm pretty sure my progressed moon also had gone into Leo. So it was like double whammy. You know, feed me attention, feed me validation. I've got 2 planets progressed into Leo, and I already am natally. I have my Mercury and my Venus in Leo. So it was this lovely sense of all this Leo energy helped me. And Leo, of course, is the sign that rules pride. You know, I was so proud that I was able to do this and put myself out there. But I still had like lots of reservations, lots of kind of like, oh God, what would people think? But like every day it gets easier. Every day you start to get over it a little bit more. And you start to, I always say, get over yourself. Because a lot of the time it's yourself that's the stumbling block. It's not other people and their responses. Because, you know, if you genuinely loved and accepted yourself, you wouldn't give a damn what anybody else said about your work or what you're doing or your life path or your business. And when you get to that place of not caring. I wouldn't say I'm 100% there, but when you get to that place, you are able to take creative risks. You're able to put stuff out there, and you're able to do your own thing and not worry about how it's going to be received. And that's incredibly liberating. So that's something I'm proud of, that I guess that I overcame that fear of platforming myself.
Yeah. Well, Leo also talks about courage and things. It's
Yes.
the strength card in tarot. So yeah, it's more a case of that inner strength than having that glow coming out and lighting you up, but then also lighting up the people that are near you or within your circle, I guess. There's so much there. But yeah, it does take a lot of courage, and like with any big changes in our lives, we do need to kind of take out that leap of faith in a way. And
big time. Yeah, big time.
I think of like a baptism of fire as what I think of with a bit of Leo energy.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Like, I'll never forget the first time I did an Instagram live with my friend Jasmina. Like, I was so nervous, my palms were sweaty, and I mean, I remember I didn't have like a microphone or anything. You know, I was so unprepared and it was so unprofessional. It was all over the shop. But lots of my friends who aren't even into astrology like watched it to support me, you know, and they just popped into live like, hey, you're doing great, you're doing great. Like, just little words of affirmation. And I think about how far I've come now, that now I go live, you know, on Instagram or YouTube, and I don't really give it too much thought anymore. I just go live and I'm myself, and I know, like, okay, like, obviously I will prepare for lives depending on the subject material I'm talking about, but like, I have confidence now to go live, and I don't get the sweaty palms or the fear around being seen or messing up or like expressing my unfiltered thoughts. I know that, you know what, if I lose a few followers, it's not the end of the world. You know, I'm going to still be fine tomorrow. Like, you know, this is the nature of the game, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, Jasmine is great as well.
She is. Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah, I've had her on my channel as well. We had good fun there too.
Yeah, and she's got so much lovely Gemini energy, yet she has that lovely Cancer midheaven. So she's so maternal as well, and caring, you know. It's just, and her Virgo rising, like this attention to detail, and the way her brain works is just so admirable. I always say her brain is like a machine. Have you seen her read charts? Like, she will read charts through four wheels. Like, she will lay one wheel, two, like she can read them all together. Like, she's just this incredible brain. I just admire her so much.
I've seen quite a few of them. It might be on your channel actually, your YouTube channel. So shout out that you have one by the same name, isn't it?
Yes, Caitriona Astro. I will admit, like, I am at the best for promoting my channels. Like, I have TikTok, I have YouTube, my Twitter. I'll be honest and say I got locked out of Twitter. Thanks, Elon Musk. After I doing his birth chart, that's the thanks I got. I don't know, they locked me out recently. I don't think it was any security issue. I think I just possibly forgot my password, and I don't really post that much in Twitter. It's a bit of an aggressive place, I find, to post astrology. So I prefer Instagram. It suits my Libra midheaven a bit more. You know, Instagram is a nice little palatable place for me to be. Yes, I have an Aries moon, but I don't love conflict with that Libra midheaven. You know, and I have some strong Libra placements, so I kind of have to honor that as well, my need for a bit of harmony and diplomacy. And I do like YouTube. I love TikTok, but Instagram is definitely my little home. And even my page and Instagram, I did the birth chart for my Instagram page. If you haven't done this, Emily, I really suggest you do it. Like, do a birth chart for your business and your page. Like, my page is a Cancer moon. And I remember even from the very beginning, I used to chat to my followers. I used to call them my little astrology family, not realizing that my Instagram page was a Cancer moon. But I didn't like elect a birth chart time when I launched my page. So unfortunately, my page is a Capricorn. And I would not have planned it to be a Capricorn. No disrespect to Capricorns, but Capricorns are the most hardworking sign of the zodiac. You know, we can all agree, like a sign ruled by Saturn is extremely hardworking, extremely disciplined, extremely responsible. And I remember, like, my Instagram page, I felt like it was a job when I started it, and I still, to some respects, but I love my Instagram page. Like, I love it. But like, it is a Capricorn, so I work hard at that Instagram page, and even I might post stories or put up like a little post now and again, but nobody sees the behind the scenes work of like the 20 DMs I might be answering Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you know, and trying to get back to all the different DMs and message people back. So yeah, I do see my page as work, and I see like it's something that I have to work at every day. But I'm really grateful for that. You know, I'm grateful for the Saturnian element on my page. But if anybody is like electing a time for their page, I would definitely elect your page to be a Taurus, because another friend of mine who is an astrologer, she accidentally made her page a Taurus, and she was like, I do nothing on my little mucky page. She calls it her mucky page, you know, because it's all nature pictures, and she puts up it's like a Taurus Instagram page will just grow by itself. It's like a little beautiful pretty place. You don't have to do much work there. It'll just like relax and rest and sit pretty and do a lot of work, you know, by itself, a Venusian page. So yeah, go for a Venusian page if you can, guys, if you're electing a time. Unless you like purposeful work. If you like purposeful work, like, definitely go for the Capricorn page. I can't complain. I do love my Instagram page, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
I might just share my screen, actually, what I wrote in my Libra thing. So basically, I'll get back to it at some point, but probably when I've finished the London School of Astrology level 3, so just going into that at the moment. But yeah, I'll get back to doing the course. I'm creating an astrology basics course.
Oh, amazing.
So this is what I've written for Libra. Let's have a little look. Is that showing? Has that shown? Oh, there we go. Oh, yes. So, let me do that full. Oh, I can't connect. Oh, pen. I don't know whether you can see that all right. Can you actually read it still?
It's a bit tiny for me, but you can. I'm sure the viewers can see it if they're watching it on a bigger screen, maybe. But
let me try and do that differently.
Maybe if you zoom a bit.
I need to. Yeah, I need to. I'm trying to remember how to do that. Let's zoom in on that one. And then. Oh, that's better. That's what I was trying to do. Yes, so I've tried making, obviously, affirmations for each sign of the zodiac, and I do have actually products I've made which have these same affirmations at the bottom. So I am
lovely.
It's like little mirrors, and what else have I got? Yeah, because the idea was doing shadow work with your sign of the zodiac, and there's also a crystal and lots of other little things in the box. But yeah, so as we talk about Venusian ruled planets and things, so I've said that yes, Libra's the sign of Libra is one of harmony. There's great negotiators and peacemakers, and it's all about fairness and justice. Have I said the tarot card in here? I don't think I have. Oh, but yeah, the Justice card is Libra, which I was briefly talking. Did I say about this in my last live? I can't remember, but yeah, there's just obviously a high road and a low road of every sign, and however we want to look at it, whether it's like things that we need to learn, or whether it's things that we've come in with, depending on where each sign is within our chart. Because regardless of what our big three are, we still have all the signs within our chart, and it's kind of where they're placed obviously makes a huge difference for what we do with them, and whether there's any planets there and aspects, etc. But
yes,
yeah, so that's what I said for Libra. I relate is the typical one that people talk about, the sign of relationship, partnership. Yeah, that's just that. I might just stop showing that, actually.
That is a lovely offering, really beautiful.
Thank you. But yeah, there's lots of different things to think about. When we talk about Libra, we think of balance, and it's quite interesting that we were talking about how to balance the nodes when we were talking about karma and stuff, and there's so many different things to try and make peace with ourselves, really.
For sure.
Oh, cool. Where did the time go?
That's me going on my little Sagittarius rants, you see. You don't realize how long they take.
I do rants as well, yes.
Mercury squaring Pluto and just time is speeding up.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. So how do you kind of manifest your dreams into reality and stay consistent with any projects and things that you're doing?
So how do I manifest, is it, Emily?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be controversial now and say that I'm not a huge fan of manifesting.
Sure.
I have manifested in the past. Well, have I? I'm not sure. I guess the deeper I've gone into astrology, the more I believe that like things come to us and that we're kind of co-creators, let's say, with the planets is the nicest. But the more I feel that like the deeper I go into it, the more I feel that there is an awful lot of stuff that is really, really fated to us already. And that like we can't miss these things that are fated to us, that we don't have to necessarily force them or manifest them into our lives. And sometimes I feel like even though manifestation is lovely, and I sometimes get a bit of backlash for this, but it's just, I guess, my honest opinion that I think that, you know, the way when people say, I'll give you an example. A girl went to a practitioner, not an astrology practitioner, and she said that she had been cheated on, okay, by her partner. And the practitioner said, well, you manifested that. You were on that frequency. Okay. And then I was there. Whoa, 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 whoa. Back up the dump truck. You did not manifest a man committing adultery and cheating on you. You were not on that frequency. And that practitioner was bang out of order to say that. And anybody that says, oh, you manifested, you know, like any bad thing in your life, and that the same way if you manifest a good thing, well, the reverse must also be true, that you manifest a bad thing. And this is my issue with manifestation. This idea that you are responsible for the bad stuff that happens to you because perhaps you're in a negative state or you're spiraling or whatever, and people feeling so out of control and, oh, well, I know I just need positive thinking. I manifested this. Another client came to me. She was having issues at work, always with women at work. And she was said, oh, well, I know I've manifested this. And I said, no, I was like, no, you did not manifest this, girl. This is in your birth chart. It is in your birth chart. You've got Black Moon Lilith in the 6th house of daily work and life. And when Black Moon Lilith falls there, you will experience issues with certain women at work. Not all women, but certain women at work. And this is something you will always experience. And it doesn't matter if you move jobs. You will still always have a difficult woman at work, and you'll experience the shadow side of women at work. And it doesn't matter how spiritually evolved you are, you will experience this because these women that are, you know, perhaps manifesting or exhibiting this shadow energy are here to teach you something. Perhaps you're here to heal them, or you're meant to, you know, they're meant to show you the shadow sign of women. You were meant to experience this negativity. So this idea that they manifested this bad thing, I have a massive problem with that. So I do, even though I've read lots of books on manifestation, and I remember years ago reading The Secret and trying out all those things and thinking that perhaps I'd manifested this or manifested that. Now I believe that, you know, having gone so deep into astrology, having studied zodiacal releasing, where we can see the exact day, the hour, the minute when something massive is going to happen, I kind of feel like, did we manifest that? Or was it predestined? You know, that big blow up, that day when your life exploded. You know, I've read for some clients and I've said to them, what happened on this day? And they're like, what day? I'm like, January the 14th, 2012. What happened that day? And they're like, oh my God, how did you know about that day? That's the day I found out, you know, that I was being brought up at work for a disciplinary issue. That's the day I found out that I had cancer. That's the day that, you know, I found out that my wife was leaving me, etc., etc. And then they're wondering, how did I know about that day? And I'm like, well, it was actually in your zodiacal releasing. you know? And this is where I have an issue with manifestation, because I think that person didn't manifest that story, that chapter, that like seismic event, that catalyst in their life, it was already going to happen. It was always coming in some shape or form or description, and nothing they could have done would have changed it, you know? No matter how positive their attitude was or how much they did in their manifesting journal. But of course, that is my belief. And I have Mercury square Pluto, so it's really difficult for me because my Mercury's in a fixed sign and my Pluto's in a fixed sign for someone to convince me otherwise. And I know that, like, I can be stubborn as F about it. But I guess I have had issue with people maybe I would call it abusing manifestation principles. I love the idea that if we're positive and if we're happy and we're on this high frequency, that happy things will happen to us. I think statistics show that if you're like a positive person, you're probably going to live longer. If you're someone with a sunny outlook and a happy, cheerful disposition, and if you're someone that doesn't get too stressed about like external events, you're going to live longer. You're going to have a happier life. If you're someone that like sees the end of a relationship as, oh, well, that's a pity, well, on to the next, you're going to have a relatively happy life. But I don't think you manifest bad things. And the same way, I kind of am skeptical about people manifesting good things too. I kind of think some things were preordained. But I don't know. Have you ever thought about it that way, Emily? I suppose it's a completely different way of looking at manifestation.
Well, so the way I see that about manifestation, I see it as more a case of, well, we're trying to align things with actually what we want or what our feelings are. So it's manifesting with the feeling. So if you feel like something is something you really want, somewhere where you want to be, it's like seeing it in your mind's eye and actually trying to align with that energy, and then giving some kind of repetition to it, whether it's like an affirmation or whether it's just you write things down, you surround yourself with like a vision board or something to kind of feel that energy and be with it. I think there is some, well, I found this sort of synchronicity, that things do attract to you in some way. But I don't think that that's without doing any work yourself. I think we still need to take the aligned action steps to actually get somewhere we want to be. But I do actually agree with a lot of what you were saying about not manifesting negativity, as it were. That some things, well, obviously the planets do have some effect in a lot of things in our lives. Otherwise, there's no way I'd be doing astrology if I didn't believe that there was something higher than ourselves that was actually influencing things around us. And we can see so much within a chart and all the transits and then all the different techniques and things we can use. But I do think there is some element to having some positivity and aligning yourself in a way that feels right with you. And actually, if you want something to happen, it's not going to just happen out of thin air, but opportunities that you want are more likely to come your way if you make some kind of, whether it's just a plan, like an action plan, or whether it's actually, I'm going to keep telling myself this is what I want. I'm going to look out for a few signs that actually indicate whether it will or won't happen. If it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. But at the same token, I'm aligning my focus. So if I'm aligning my focus and it's in that direction, hopefully things will come in that direction. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
But
totally.
Yeah, I don't feel that actually that, I know you said some things kind of feel fated or they will happen, and this zodiacal releasing will actually allude to where it might happen and what date, time, etc. We can't fight things that are going to happen, but we can try and align ourselves in some way that feels authentic, but also if things do happen in a certain way that isn't preferable and can be traumatic, can be painful, etc., that if we use tools, say, of astrology or tarot or anything that feels aligned to us to try and deal with that situation, those tools are going to be helping us to actually feel our best self and not completely derail when something does happen that is traumatic, hopefully. And it's people like ourselves that hopefully can support people if something does. I mean, I know we're not counselors, but some of us might have a little bit of that training or that nuance or that intuition that says, okay, how can I hold a bit of space for you if the worst should happen? But the knowledge to then refer on if we feel it's something that we're not best suitable to help someone with.
Yeah, totally.
I guess some of it's how you hold space for people, and other things you can't stop them from happening, as you say, but how do we deal with it? That's interesting. Very interesting indeed. And no, I didn't feel like you're attacking my manifestation thing. I know it runs through a lot of my brand and what I do, but at the same token, we are all different.
Yeah, and it goes on the birth chart as well, you know. Like there's something I'd rather not discuss, but like there's something in my own birth chart that I struggled with my whole life, and I tried to manifest my way out of it. And it kind of gave me a lot of compassion for myself when I accepted that struggle in my chart and worked around it rather than trying to manifest like beyond it. You know what I mean? Like when I accepted it, like there was such a lovely sense of acceptance and compassion that, okay, well, actually, that was part of my story. Like I had to experience that. And like I didn't manifest that. You know, I guess there was kind of like a sense of, oh, yeah, that was nice to have that kind of compassion for myself. And for anyone else who struggles with anything, that, you know, that the message that you don't manifest bad things, that certain bad things happen and like they weren't your fault, that kind of energy, you know, which is nice to hold on to.
Do you have any sort of goals, projects, or anything that you'd like to share with us, or offerings that you have?
Well, I guess my current offerings are my in-depth birth chart readings and my transit readings. And my long readings are gone for January now, so you're looking at February is the next availability for those. And then I have short-term, what I called accessibly priced readings that I brought out when Jupiter moved into Gemini. I wanted to make astrology more accessible. So I've always had a reading called the Astro Express reading, where somebody comes to me like with a little crisis that they want some guidance on. And my Aries moon, I mean, hello, I love a crisis. I'm like, yeah, let's get in there, let's unpack. So I have that, it's accessibly priced. And I also have the shadow sign reading where I explore, you know, a person's strongest element, weakest element, their signature sign, their shadow sign, and also like the thing that jumps out from their birth chart, like the most important thing I see for them. It's like a 20-minute little reading. All of my readings are pre-recorded. That's the way I like to do birth charts. I don't like to do like face-to-face Zooms. I get distracted when the other person's looking at me. I don't like to ask leading questions. I just prefer to read charts blind. So I don't meet the person. They don't need to tell me anything. They just give me their birth details. If they want to tell me the nature of their query, or if they want to tell me what they want advice on, I give that special attention. But I'll read the chart blind with no background info and just tell them everything I see for them. And that like is a lovely way for me to kind of be very impartial and unbiased and just give them my unfiltered, raw Mercury square Pluto type of truth. And, you know, with Mercury square Pluto, I love to go really deep into the chart and pull out the deepest part of the chart and tell them something that there's no way I could have known otherwise. You know, that's always the challenge I set, like to tell this person something that will make them believe in the nature of fate and astrology and the nature of the soul blueprint. And then my other offering is the guide to the shadow sign, which is a very little mini online course on my website that is very affordable, and it's you know, a downloadable guide teaching you how to figure out your own shadow sign and the shadow sign of anyone, like your friends, family, partner, perhaps future clients. And it's just a very like nice gentle introduction to the fundamental the bones of astrology, which we'll call, let's say, the elements: earth, air, fire, water, and the modalities, cardinal, mutable, fixed, which I often feel are neglected and overlooked. So people can buy that guide. It's on my website, and they can work through the course at their own pace, and they get the downloadable guide and the little PDFs of how to go about calculating the shadow sign. And it's just very empowering because it helps you understand astrology for yourself and for other people, and gives you a really good understanding of the elements. And I give all of the remedies for the elements you lack. And I give you all of the problems you might run into with your strongest element. Because having too much of something is just as dangerous as having too little of something. You know, what nourishes you destroys you. That idea that like we're all striving for balance. I've got a lot of fire. I don't have much earth, so I need to ground myself. I don't have much air, so I need to study and educate and teach and learn. I have a lot of water, so I need to have good boundaries. And like teaching people about like how to work with their strongest element and compensate for their weakest element. And I have been approached a lot about teaching astrology, doing live astrology classes or one-on-one astrology. I'm not ready yet to do that, Emily, because it's just time. And the fact that I am a full-time teacher as well, you know, in a primary school in Ireland. So perhaps that in the future is something like I have my eye on, that like that's in what I would see as an inevitable progression for me, that I would share my knowledge and teach it, and maybe share it in a way that only I can. Because yeah, like I guess I look at astrology through a very nuanced lens of blending all these different disciplines to get this like big picture. And I'm very, very passionate about like people knowing like Aries inside out before they progress on to anything else. You know, I see people saying, "Oh, what does Sun square Moon?" I'm like, "But wait, you don't understand the archetype of Aries yet. You
Yeah.
don't understand the nature of Mars." I'm like, people I feel don't have a deep enough understanding of the zodiac archetypes, the 12 zodiac signs, and the traditional planets and the outer planets. I feel like people just say, "Oh, Pluto is this," or Mars is that. Like, no, no, no. You need to understand the mythology behind each of the planets. You need to know the planets like they are central characters in your life. And Cosmic Navigator, he's one of my favorite astrologers in the world. And you know, I don't have gurus, but Cosmic Navigator, he said one time, I was listening to him, he said, "See the planets as people in your life." And he said, "Your life will change. You will look at the transits and your birth chart in a completely different light." So I took out my own birth chart and my transits, and I said, "Okay, who's Mars right now in my life?" And I identified Mars. Who's Pluto right now in my life? Who, you know, who is the moon right now in my life? Who are all these different characters, particularly with the malefic planets? You know, it's not as easy to do it with Venus, you know. Well, you can, but like uh, there's always going to be someone in your life who's getting on your nerves or making life difficult, you know. And it's very easy to identify Saturn, Mars, Pluto. If you like try to, they can sometimes be situations, but you can also find that they manifest as people. Like that, perhaps someone has Saturn, I don't know, in their 10th house. They're going through a difficult time with their boss. Well,
Yeah.
surprise, surprise, how is Saturn manifested in your life? He's manifested as this boss who's come in with all this restrictive energy, or maybe he's micromanaging you or whatever. And, you know, found that really helpful and helped me learn the nature of the planets when I looked at them as people, and helped me kind of reframe things, not as these outside vague forces that are not tangible and that I had to study in a book. I realized that the planets were here on Earth with me, like the archetypes were made manifest in human form. And that was really, really like blew my mind and just brought me to a whole new level of astrology unlocked. So, yeah.
That's amusing. You kind of inadvertently answered my question about manifesting there at the same time.
Yeah, so true, so true.
I don't try to trick my guests, I promise. But it's just like, oh, there you go. You've gone two sides of the same question in yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so interesting.
Yeah. Wow. There was something that came up. I've forgotten what the question was. Oh no, that's just not coming. Oh well. So I think you've kind of answered about what readings and things might look like with you, and things that you might share. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up at all?
No, just to thank you for the opportunity, Emily, to come on and talk and to share some of my astrological experience and talk about my journey. I really love the opportunity to talk astrology any day of the week, you know, any time of the day. Love astrology. It is like this. It's something I became obsessed with years ago, and it's been the healthiest obsession I've ever had. Because anybody with Mercury square Pluto natally
Mm,
knows that we can get obsessed with the wrong things. So yeah, astrology is like the one love that I've always returned to, and it's been like a bedrock in my life. And yeah, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to connect with other astrologers and share my passion for astrology online. And yeah, if anybody wants to follow me, you can find me at Caitriona Astro. Just know that if you follow me, I share unfiltered, raw astrology, not watered down at all, because of some of my natal aspects. But, you know, I try to share it with honesty and compassion and try to empower you to learn your own astrology.
beautiful. Yeah, I'm definitely with you on sharing it with compassion. And
Mhm.
yes, some things that I say, do share, whatever, might be a bit controversial, but then I try and add little bits of humor in my reels and things like that. It's like, well, we can't laugh at ourselves. What can we do about all these things?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. We're circling back now to just being yourself.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you to everybody who's joined us now or in the future. I'm going to wrap up here. You're welcome to stay with me for a bit, Caitriona, if you want to
Mhm.
backstage. All right. Thanks,
Thanks, everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.